Hi there and welcome to a competitive commander card review for Jorn, God of Winter, and his card ring, the rimstaff. If you run this as your commander, you gain access to the Sultai colors, green, blue and black. It's a 3 mana cost green and 2 generic free god that reads, whenever Jorn attacks, untap each snow permanent you control. That means he's gonna untap himself as he is a snow permanent himself. He will also untap his rimstaff that can't be in play if he's in play himself. And this is probably the idea that Wizard of the Coast has. Normally when you build a 60 card deck, we're allowed to have 4 copies of each card. You can have 4 copies of Jorn. So normally you might draw 2 duplicates, have 1 Jorn in play and 1 Jorn in your hand. And that is a problem because now you can't cast your secondary Jorn because then you have to sacrifice the one. However, I think this is an interesting way to solve that legendary problem in 60 card decks, that you could, instead of casting Jorn, you cast his rimstaff instead. So that is an interesting idea. I kind of like it from Wizard of the Coast, honestly. However, in Commander, you can't have both in play, which is a little bit sad, so you have to choose here. It's a 3 mana cost snow artifact. Tap it. You may play target snow permanent card from your graveyard this turn. If you do, it enters the battlefield tapped, and then it's supposed to become untapped when Jorn attacks. You can actually play lands from your graveyard with this thing. This creates a great opportunity to talk about these new dueled snowlands. Don't play them. They are in general really bad because they enter forcefully tapped. Now they will tap for several different colors and they will be snow, which is great with Jorn, and you could actually tutor for them with Into the North. However, as they enter tapped, they are a little bit too slow. Sure, you could attack with Jorn and then untap them, but still, I highly recommend trying to avoid them. Go for basic snowlands instead. That will probably be enough. But we do have some really interesting snowlands here. For example, Mouth of Runum, which is a land that you sacrifice to deal 4 damage to a creature, and you can regain it with a rimstaff. Or Scrying Sheet that let you look at the top card of your library. If that is snow, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. And then you can attack with Jorn to untap the Scrying Sheet, to do it again to potentially draw a secondary card this turn. But in general, the ability to attack and untap all your basic lands that are snow is quite interesting and should have some potential with it. And we will also untap things like Boreal Druid, which is also just a mana producing permanent. After that, we don't really untap that much because the rest of the things that are snow are in general quite bad and cards you shouldn't really play. So in the end, this is still only untapping your basic lands, which is still pretty interesting. I mean, there should be something you could burst into play with that. I mean, people are excited about Belle for the sole purpose that she's giving you a lot of mana to burst into play some really expensive spell. And this is pseudo the same thing, except you're gaining 1 more color of blue. And you're also not giving mana to your opponents. And you have some form of card drawing capability with the rimstaff. However, as most snow things are quite bad, it's quite limiting on how good that card capability with the rimstaff is gonna be. Mouth of Runum might be, in my opinion, almost the best thing to basically sit there and loop. You do have that Ice Fang Kotal, which got flash, flying, and when Ice Fang Kotal enters the battlefield, draw a card. And then it's a 1/1, so if you Skull Clamp it, it goes back to the graveyard and you draw 2 cards, and you rimstaff it and you draw a card on the ETB, or you sacrifice that somehow and you have some form of card drawing capability that you could sit there and loop. Which is something, but I'm not really impressed about it. However, now, some of you are gonna say that this review is a little bit too early because we haven't seen the entire set yet from Kaldheim, and there could be some interesting snow stuff that arrives that these 2 things could utilize, and that is absolutely true. So let's talk about some ifs. If they make something that is really interesting to untap, that this creature could basically boost, that could be an interesting thing. Let's say tap, draw a card that becomes an extra 2 cards per turn. Or if they make something that is tap, deal a damage, and then he attacks, untap that death pinger thing, and you tap it and deal another 1 damage, and you could sit there and basically shoot down 2 2s like Tymnus and other things. You can kill Hull Breach, you can opposition agent with something that is tapping to deal a damage, and it's a snow thing. That could be something. If there is something like the Kotal snake creature that I showcased that have some interesting loop effect, or basically it can sacrifice itself to do something interesting. That could also be something you could basically try and build a deck around. Or if they have enough things like that, we could start getting somewhere with this. But now, let's move forward and talk about having that, specifically that. I'm not really interested in that thing. Having that inside the 99. Here we have Kenrith, the Returned King. If you build your deck focused around Kenrith, you can't really have too much mana, because you can always do something with that mana. Draw cards, put +1% counters on things, or reanimate creatures. Also, it is possible to build a Kenrith deck with only basic lands. I've done that, and I might try to do it again now. Jorn basically becomes a land doubler here, and that is something Kenrith could be interested in. I'm guessing that a lot of you are just sitting there and waiting for me to mention cEDH. However, I don't really think cEDH is going to be capable of playing Jorn, because cEDH is demanding a lot of color fixing, and that is making it really tricky to play only basic lands. Kenrith doesn't have that problem. He basically just demands one color here and there. He doesn't even need black or red in general. All you really need is just green to ramp out some mana dorks, then you need white to be able to cast Kenrith, then you need blue, and then you can draw cards, and then you're going. The black and red can come later. Specifically for Kenrith, if you have 5 snow lands in play or more, Jorn turns into a ritual. You cast him for free, you pay 1 snow red mana to give him haste, and now you attack, and then you untap all your snow lands, and you've basically turned him into a ritual. That means that Tasigur could also potentially play this, because Tasigur, just like Kenrith, is also demanding a lot of generic colorless mana, or let's just say whatever mana. After that, all you need is just 1 blue or 2 green, or 2 blue and green or blue, and then you can start activating his ability. So you could potentially explode a little bit grindy with Jorn if you're able to play a heavy basic land Tasigur deck, which I think is possible. However, that means that you're not playing Tainted Pact or trying to win the game with Thassa's Oracle. But there are different combo options available, so you can find a different game plan that you're going for that is allowing you to play a bunch of basic lands that is interesting in ramping out your commander and trying to grind some value with it. I guess we could compare Jorn with Nikaya of the Old Ways. They're both trying to do a very similar thing here, doubling up the mana production of your lands, while they both have some form of drawback, as Jorn isn't functioning with non-snow lands, while Nikaya aren't allowing you to cast non-creature spells. And Nikaya is also 5 mana, while Jorn is only 3. Okay, 3 is quite a lot, but 3 is a lot less than 5. As a finalized review, I don't think this creature is going to be popping up that much in cEDH in general, because most people like to play with a lot of non-basic lands to perfectly color fix their decks so they can play all sorts of different spells. But this is making me a bit happy, because it is upgrading the basic land decks only, and I think we want to upgrade those decks. So this is a good print for cEDH for those weaker decks we want to see more of. However, here I want to mention something a bit weird. It would almost be better if it didn't have this backside, so the only color identity this had would be green only, because then mono-green decks could actually play this. As of now, you have to have Sultai colors at least to be able to include Jorn inside your deck. Oh yeah, by the way, I have a new Patreon. Now, normally I don't say thank you to patrons like this in the video. I always showcase your name in the end screen, which is coming pretty soon. However, when someone is coming with a name like this, I kinda have to prove my pronouncing skills, which I'm so famous for. So, Rödgröd med flöde, thank you for your support. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and you wanna support me, feel free to share my videos or even checking out my Patreon page. Also, purchasing cards from the TCG Players website using the affiliate link in the description below of the video will also help the channel grow. So a big thank you to all of you.